These are the sticker prices that we're seeing today. I've had to update this slide many, many times over the years. When I first started doing this 14 years ago, the sticker price at a private university, that's the larger column there, was around $55,000, $56,000. Now it is 70. It's actually north of 70. Many schools are in the mid 70s. Some are approaching 80,000. This past year, we saw a trend that suggested that University of Chicago would be the first college to top $100,000 a year. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think that this COVID pandemic has put the brakes on a lot of college tuition hikes. In fact, we saw recently that some colleges have reduced or planning to reduce their sticker prices this year. That's the first time we've seen that in a long time. But right now, the average is somewhere between $70,000 and $75,000 for a private school. That's the sticker price. That's not what most people pay. That is the sticker price. And then at a public school, particularly here in Florida, this could vary between $20,000 and $30,000 at a state university. These are Florida numbers. We are in Florida. I know some of you are not, but depending on the state that you live in-state tuition, cost of attendance. What does that mean? That's not just tuition. That includes everything. That includes books and room and board and the whole thing, as well as travel expense. So it's anywhere between $20,000 and $70,000 on average. But that's not what most people pay. So most people get a discount. So where are those discounts? They come from one of several different buckets. The largest source of discount is going to be in the federal need-based financial aid system. That's, many of you have heard of the FAFSA. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The FAFSA is the application that's required to seek and obtain federal aid. So this is the largest single source. Then you have institutional need-based aid. That is a very important source of funding for middle and upper middle income families. Most middle and upper income families don't qualify for federal aid, but you can qualify for institutional aid, and those scholarships, or grants I should say, can be significantly larger than what the federal government will award. A federal grant is anywhere between $6,000 and $7,000 maximum, and that's for high need families. An institutional grant can be awarded to families earning north of $100,000, $120,000, maybe even $150,000. They can get very significant five-figure institutional grants depending on the school and depending on the family circumstances. Then you have federal and state-based merit aid, different state scholarships, a lot of different scholarships. Like in Florida, we have Bright Futures. In Georgia, they have the Hope Scholarship. Depending on where you live, there may be a state scholarship that's awarded by your state to pay for school, whether it's in-state or out-of-state. Then you have merit-based awards. These are actual scholarships. So we differentiate between grants, which are need-based, and scholarships, which are merit-based. Scholarships can come from the form, any kind of talent, athletics, SAT scores, engineering, theater, whatever it might be. You can qualify for a merit-based scholarship in a variety of different ways. Some of them require different additional applications, others do not. And then, of course, you have private scholarships, which get a lot of attention. So this is where where the majority of the money is located. This sort of represents the full scale of where the different scholarship, discount, grant opportunities may be for families. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about some myths and what keeps people from applying for financial aid. And I want to strongly suggest that if you're listening to this, that you apply for financial aid. If you don't, you could be leaving money on the table. And if you think that you don't qualify, you never know what will happen a year from now. Did we have any idea that we would be in the state of the world that we are today a year ago? Absolutely not. So I strongly suggest that you consider going about applying for financial aid. The number one myth, number one reason why people don't apply is they think they earn too much money. That's fairly common. It's the number one reason. And most people are wrong about that. There are some cases, true, where families are high income, high earning families, and they may not qualify this year, but this year doesn't necessarily mean you have to do this every year. So if you have a high income this year, that may change next year. I know some folks who have fluctuating income, so it definitely is worthwhile to complete a financial aid application. They think their students not yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, we often talk about the fact that don't listen to your neighbor, because your neighbor does not necessarily know all of your business. So just because you live in the same neighborhood and your neighbor says to you, oh, don't bother because you make too much money, they don't know what you could or could not be eligible for.
That's right. And the FAFSA application is free. We're going to talk about the different applications. You do pay for the CSS profile of private schools. You pay for to apply for financial aid, which I think is one of the great ironies in all of this. But the FAFSA is free. It's worth it to complete one. If your student is not a superstar, that should not have a bearing on financial aid. You will still qualify if you get admitted to the school. The school will then award you money if you're deserving. And there are plenty of schools that offer scholarships. Here's one example of a school that offers merit scholarships. This is Ohio Wesleyan University. It's a small liberal arts college. It's part of the colleges that change lives. I encourage you as a family to look at the colleges that change lives. There are 40 plus schools that represent this group. They are excellent colleges. They tend to be smaller. They tend to be private. Not all of them are, but they do award significant merit scholarships. Here's a case where they award a scholarship to families of 30, or to students, $30,000 scholarship with a cum GPA of 3.4 and an ACT of 23 or an SAT of 1150. These are not superstar scores. This is not a straight A average by any means. These are B students who are qualifying for significant $30,000 per year scholarships. That's per year. So this is real money, and this is just one example of one school. There are numerous awards like this, so it's just a matter of knowing where to look.